Hello and welcome. This is our chat for March's featured designer, and I'm going to have Emma from Bloom and Create here. So super excited to have you joining. And here's Emma. So we'll get her on. Let's see here. I think I accepted. That always takes a little bit. There we go.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's like a beautiful day out. I just went for a walk and I think it's like 60 degrees here. And so it's really, really nice. I feel like it's like very springy and summery finally. So
Yes,
yeah.
perfect. Yeah, we had several days, and you probably did too, because you're not that far. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh yeah. I mean, so you're probably a little bit warmer than I am, but kind of the same wavelength, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because it seemed like we had several really great days last week, and now it's been bright and sunny.
It's been a nice shift for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you joining us, and for everybody hopping on, welcome. Feel free to, interact with us in the comments. It's always a lot of fun, I think, to chat with folks while we're also chatting. So to start with, we can do some introductions. If you don't know who I am Jessica, the knitting pattern designer behind Snickerdoodle Knits and the facilitator behind the Design Circle, which is a community for knit and crochet pattern designers, which actually the doors are open right now. So if you're a pattern designer and interested in with other pattern designers, check it out. But with me, I have Emma, our featured designer for March. Emma is just a sweet soul. If you're not following her already, definitely give her a follow because I absolutely love what you create, Emma. Like when I think of how I always thought I wanted my brand to look like and the kind of content I wanted to share, it would be your work. I finally realized that's not actually who I am, so it just doesn't work. But I love what you do, and I'm glad that we're all different. We don't all have to look the same.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to share your work here. Is there anything else you would share, just as a little intro to yourself?
Sure. So I am a knitwear designer. I mostly will design socks right now and accessories, but I'm kind of branching out into some more garment design right now, which is really fun. In addition to being a knitter and kind of really passionate about creative arts and those sorts of things, I work as a therapist in my day job. And so I do a lot of, I find knitting and my work in the mental health field really interacting quite a bit. And so those two pieces are a big part of what I do in my day to day. So yeah.
Yes, and actually I was going to ask you about how those correspond later, but let's go ahead and talk about it now because it really does. It really shows through in the content that you share with Bloom and Create. You're not just a designer, not that anybody is ever just a designer. Obviously we all have personalities and lives beyond it, but your work really shows more about who you are and kind of your day job work that you do. So how does that all interact, and how do you explain to us maybe a little bit about what you do and then how you bring that into Bloom and Create?
Definitely, I'd be happy to. So in my day-to-day work, I work mostly with adolescents and some young folks who are kind of just entering adulthood and just kind of figuring out what's going on. And I provide therapy for them. And so I practice something called DBT, which we don't need to get into all of those funky things right now. A lot of it, though, is skills-based and based around giving people options and like things that they can do when they are feeling those low points in their life. And I'm like I get like a little iffy when people say like knitting is my therapy, because as a therapist, maybe I'm a little bit I'm like, no, that's not right. I think knitting is so therapeutic. And I think it's like being able to love and be so passionate about something where you will just like think about it all the time is such a like a protective factor for folks. It just brings a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, and I love that about it. Um, and then there's also something really soothing and mindful about the act of knitting and how different projects or different kind of like threads of knitting can bring about different feelings and emotions, and soothe us in different ways or challenge us in different ways. And I love that aspect of knitting and crocheting and all the different fiber arts that we have. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so then on your Instagram account, you share a lot of stuff that's very much like I mean, obviously it's not therapy, but it's very encouraging and like speaks to what mental health actually looks like. A lot of what we see on social media, not as much anymore, but we still see a lot of what folks often call the highlight reel, or the perfect part of folks' lives.
Yeah.
And just the reminder that everybody struggles with different things at different times, and your account is, or your brand in general, is just like this like sunshine that like also is like, hey, we're living real life. It's okay to be a real person.
Thank you. I feel really like affirmed when people share that like that's the kind of energy they get from my account. And like it's been a lot of fun having the account develop in the way that it has. And just kind of like enjoying that process and like enjoying the different places it takes me has been a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I'll touch on about the knitting being therapy kind of thing. From my perspective, also, I want to say it's okay if you don't have the perspective where you feel like knitting is your therapy. Because for me, it's like, okay, yes, I enjoy the, just the movements, especially, I usually don't love just plain garter or stockinette, but sometimes that's what I need to help my mental health. And I recognize that, but I've also often felt like guilt around the fact that I don't feel like my knitting is important enough to me or something. Like I don't have like, oh, this is like what has saved my life. And so I want to say it's okay if you're also in that boat.
Yeah. And I think it's like rarely ever one thing that saves our life or like changes how we feel, right? It's so many different categories, and like it doesn't always serve the purpose of being super soothing. Like maybe that's not what it is for you. Maybe it's that challenge or that excitement or that pride, or it's just something you like to do. There's lots of reasons why we knit. But I appreciate you highlighting, just because it's one thing to me doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing to you or to anybody else, really.
Yes. And so like I often describe it as like I feel like I'm a designer before I'm a knitter, because the reason I really started knitting all of the time was because of my obsession with designing. And so it is a lot of the creative aspect, the problem solving, different things like that, but then it also has become a lot of the community for me. So I love making things, I love wearing the things that I make, but more than that, it's about these other things that it has then connected me to. All right, so then let's go. Oh, first of all, being 10 minutes in, but I wanted to say happy birthday month, because
thank you.
If you're not familiar with Emma, always does a birthday sweater for her birthday, which I think is so fun. And also, we share a birthday month, and if I remember right, we were born in the same year, so we're like just a few days apart.
Oh, 96?
Yep.
Just revealed our ages, but
yes.
Cool stuff.
So what day?
Mine's March 27th.
And mine's the 20th.
What? Wow. That is so freaky. Wow. Yeah.
Cool. So happy birthday in a few weeks. I've already started getting birthday emails, and I'm like, oh, I guess it is March now, but it still is a bit early.
I'm like, I thought we have some time. What's going on? Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so for folks that don't know about your birthday sweater, definitely recommend they go check it out. Do you have it with you by chance?
I'm like actually actively knitting on it right now. So this is my birthday sweater so far. Essentially, it's a sweater that I knit um, in anticipation for my birthday, and then I wear it for the first time on my birthday, like kind of as a way to celebrate it. And like there's something special about like that first day wearing a sweater, and so I was like, that's the gift I'm gonna give myself for my birthday. So this is it so far. It's
Yes.
rolling up. It's quite cropped. It's supposed to be like 8 inches under the arm, so I have about an inch and a half to go. And then I have to pick up, it's like a V-neck sweater. It's the Daily Pullover by Paula Pivera is what I'm knitting. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Looks so cozy.
Thanks.
All right. So then also part of like the intro, even though we've definitely been chatting, because like, I can't just follow my questions, you know? I wanted to ask, what are 3 of your favorite things in life in general? It doesn't have to be your 3 favorite, but like 3 things that come to mind, and at least one of them has to be not yarny.
Okay, gotcha. So 3 of my favorite things just in life in general.
Yeah.
Gosh, okay. I guess I will start out by saying I love, I mean, I love the color mauve, which I think we
Yes.
all, I'm very in love with the things that I love. I very much share that I love them. So I love the color mauve. I love the shades of pink. I love the idea of like being feminine and owning that femininity and not viewing it as a weakness. And like that is a huge privilege of mine that I am a cis woman, and like that is something that I have found a lot of connection with. And I also just like love the visual appeal of mauve. So mauve yarn, mauve clothes, like mauve home items, you know, like I rent my apartment, but if I, or when I, or if, you know, I own a home, like I'm going to paint everything mauve, like it's just going to happen. So I love that. And I think I really, right now, really interested in watching gymnastics. I really love watching these amazing athletes do like things that just don't make sense to me. And I think it's really entertaining, and there's a lot of like just cool stuff to hear about that. And then I think, gosh, I really feel very grateful and love my family. And I feel like so lucky that my family, one, at this time, most of us live pretty close together, and that I have positive relationships with them and feel like I can go to them if I need things. So like my parents live pretty close by. My sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece also live pretty close by. My little brother's down in Atlanta, so he's a little farther away. But when he comes back, it's really nice. So
yeah, that's nice. Thanks for sharing. I was like typing up just some things that I thought we could chat about.
yeah.
And I came up and I was like, I could give her a warning about this, but maybe it'll be fun to see what she comes up with on this time. Because I haven't asked any of the other designers that, but I think it's fun to just like bring in different elements that are not knitting and designing, because we're not, I mean, yeah, we're knitters and we're designers, but there's a whole lot more too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so then actually going into knitting and designing.
Cool.
How did you get started knitting, and then how did you get started designing?
Yeah, knitting. I learned how to knit. My mom taught me how to knit when I was like 7 or 8. I knit a garter stitch scarf that took me like many years to knit. And so I enjoyed doing it then. And then when I was in college, I got into crocheting. And so I was actually in a sorority in college. And during like all our chapter meetings, I would always like bring my crocheting. And so I did a lot of crocheting then, and I enjoyed that. And I crocheted little penguins, like, because penguins were my sorority's like mascot. So I just crocheted a bunch of penguins.
They're so cute.
Then, yeah, when I got back into knitting when I was in grad school, though. I think one, I found like the designs, like the sweater designs that were coming out in like 2017, 2018, like they were just so stunning and like beautiful, and like I really wanted to make them. And there wasn't the same amount of designs out there for crochet. So I kind of leaned a little bit more into knitting, and kind of remembered how to do it. YouTube has definitely been a helper. It still helps me now. Like, I forget how to do the make one right versus the make one left, you know, those sorts of things. Um, and so that was kind of how I got into knitting, and I just like went full force into it. It was definitely became like a capital K knitter at that point. I started designing about a year and a half after I got back into knitting a lot. And so I was at the very end of 2019, I think is when yeah. Um, I felt like I saw a lot of sock designs, and I was like, you know, I think I could do this. And I liked the idea of putting together charts and kind of putting things, like working out the puzzle, while also really making it an enjoyable knit at the same time. And so I kind of started there and then kept moving. 2020 gave me a lot of time to knit. So that's kind of where a lot of this stuff bloomed out of, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll go into the designing a little bit more, but first I'm curious. So you did some knitting and then you didn't do a whole lot, and then you did some crocheting. Have you been interested in like other hobbies and crafts? Like, has that been a big thing, or is it mostly just been knit and crochet?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like a, I guess it would be a hobby, but like when I was in high school, I was very interested in art, and like did a lot of like
Mm,
painting and drawing, and still to this day, like my, you know, I write notes for work a lot of the times, but there's always like doodles in the margins, and like I love kind of putting things together and like kind of sketching it out and being a little bit more on that artsy side. Um, I haven't really tried out too many other crafts for right now. I really want to learn how to sew, but I'm kind of like, Emma, you have enough crafts time. You have a stash that you have acquired, and just work there. And so I'm kind of like, I'm giving myself a little bit of time before I dive into another thing.
yes, there's always so many things. So my mom knew how to sew. None of my family that I knew at the time knew how to knit. I've since learned, like 2 years ago, that my grandma used to knit a ton when she
Oh,
was like my age, but I
wow.
had no idea growing up. So my mom had taught me to sew. So that was kind of the first thing that I
Mm.
did more of. But now it's like I feel like I have so many hobbies and I don't do any of them. I just like think longingly about them. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, okay, so actually diving into your design process, what you love about designing and what you don't love. Curious, like, what is your favorite part about designing,
My
and what is
favorite.
your least favorite part?
Okay, gosh. Um, my favorite part, I would say, is getting to like marry the idea of making an enjoyable knit with making something that's beautiful. Like I
Mhm.
am a really like I don't like doing certain things when I knit, and I am like pretty like I just don't want to have to do an all over big cabled sweater. Like there's just things that I'm just like that is too much attention for me right now. They look stunning, but I can't do that. And so wanting to like create something that has a balance between like peaceful knitting and also something that is like it flows and it's visually appealing and just like looks beautiful. I don't know. I like the
Yeah.
beauty and just like the like beauty in what it looks like, and then also beauty in the process. Um, I also really love putting together like my pattern PDFs. Like I really like kind of putting the pretty things in there and you know adding little journal prompts and stuff. Like I really enjoy that part of it. Um,
Yeah. So, a quick question. Do
yeah.
you like to knit, wear, and design the same kind of things? Or do you have a struggle finding the balance between all of it?
Um, yeah. I mean, I design things that I want to wear. And I wear my designs. Like I brought some over with me and I was like, yeah, I've worn these socks and I don't, you know, they're, I'm not precious about it. And that's, I think every designer kind of has a different way to approach that stuff. But
Yes.
yeah.
So I've always struggled with the kind of things I like to wear are really simple, like a bunch of stockinette. But I kind of mentioned this earlier. Usually I don't love to knit that. And when I'm designing, I usually enjoy the challenge. And so it's like I love to knit and design kind of more intricate things that require more brain space, but what I want to wear is not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sure.
maybe I just need to, knit for somebody who is the opposite, and we can just exchange knits.
Yeah, like a little switcheroo, a little swap happening there for sure.
Yeah, but it's been really interesting. I feel like I'm finally kind of getting into a spot where it's like, okay, I'm designing the things that I really like. I love all of my designs. They all are special to me in some way or another, but I'm definitely trying to find, all right, this is actually what I want to wear, like nonstop. How can I make it so I also enjoy the knitting and the designing process?
Yeah, definitely. It's fun to find that balance, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna move on to your least favorite part of design.
Oh gosh. I don't like the technical side of things. I don't, not in that like I don't mind the computers, like I don't mind that stuff. I just don't like the like super close to detail stuff. Like my lovely tech editor Natasha is like a saint because she has to like comb through all of my typos, and I'm like, I don't like typo. I don't proofread. This is not the time. So like getting down and like looking at all of those minutia is probably my least favorite part about it. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. I'm thankful we have tech editors. It was like when I didn't have my first few patterns tech edited, and then I did go back and have them tech edited. But once I started working with a tech editor, I'm like, oh, I can spend a whole lot less time reading through and redoing all of my math 10 times to make sure it's all right. I'll just send it over to them and they can deal with it.
Yes.
But that's not my problem anymore. So when you got into the design process, once you were kind of interested in starting with socks, was there anything that surprised you about it? Was it easier or harder than you expected, or?
I think I didn't expect for it to be something that like that would like constantly develop and like kind of grow. I think what I mean by that is like when I first like designed my first few designs, I was like, oh, this is a really cool idea I have. Like I'll just do this one thing. And like I was, in grad school, but then the pandemic hit, and so like could no longer go to the hospital that I was interning at because they were like, we don't want any students. And so I had all this time. And I was like, oh, I have this time right now. I'll just do it. And so I didn't expect for it to be such a big part of my life, like 2 years later. Like I kind of just expected it to just be something I did. But like now I'm like, oh yeah, I have like my plans and hopes for like the next year of designing like sketched out and stuff, and like I didn't expect for that to happen in such a way. But
yeah, so like how much time, either hours or percentage of a week, are you spending on your designing? Because obviously you also are a therapist still, so
it depends. It really depends. I think that, it's hard to say because a good amount of the time that I spend designing is like spent sample knitting and like making those things happen. So like, I don't know. I usually don't work on like PDFs or patterns unless it's like the weekend because I find that it's hard for me to like switch from working brain to pattern working brain and back and forth. So I kind of like, if I get into a pattern PDF writing mode, I'm like, I don't want to go back to my other job. Like, I don't want to do that. And so it'll get confusing. So on the weekends, if I have a PDF that I want to work on, I'll work on it for maybe like 3 or 4 hours or something along those lines. And then during the week, I definitely will be making my samples and working on those kind of in the evenings and things like that. And then with my Patreon and stuff like that, I sometimes will do Zooms and stuff during the week, depending on like what's going on. But it ebbs and flows. There's no one answer of how much time, and I don't track my time.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes it's better not to.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask about Patreon later, but let's go ahead and talk about it because
Sure.
I just love like different perks you have in the Patreon that are so unique and beautiful. So do you want to share about your Patreon, how it started, if you want, and then like what you offer in there?
Sure. So my Patreon, I started it last January, so a year ago, I guess. Or no, it's March right now. You know, a little bit more than a year ago.
It kind of still feels like January though.
Yeah. I started because I wanted to have like a consistent way of like having like some kind of design income, even if I wasn't going to be working on like putting out a design that month. I also started it because as my job as a therapist, I like talk to people and talk to teens, and some of these teens like to look me up. And if they find Boom Crate, great, cool, awesome. I'm really passionate about knitting, so passionate that I have done all this, and like, great. But I wanted to like film podcasts and kind of share a little bit more about like what's going on in my life, but like didn't feel comfortable putting that out there on like the whole wide web of the internet because like, you know,
Yes.
we just need some boundaries. So having the Patreon was a way that I could kind of communicate with people more directly, and kind of foster a really like a place where we can knit without expectation, and like we can be encouraged to practice self-care in whatever way it makes sense for folks. So that's kind of how it started. Right now, like I have two kind of levels within Patreon. I have one level where we have a Discord server. I post videos, podcasts. I have design behind the scenes. I will sometimes post like journal prompts. They get a coupon code for a free pattern each month, and then that's one tier. And then the second tier I have is all of those benefits plus once a month they get a handwritten note with like a sticker or two depending on what's happening that month. And like the other thing, like disclaimer, right now I actually have paused Patreon for the month of March because my personal life has gotten quite busy in like great positive ways, but also like just kind of taking a step back. So people can join right now. It just won't like you won't get perks for this month and you won't be charged for this month of March, but you would like join and then be charged in April. Basically I like need more time to finish my February perks, and I was like, I need to pause. It's never happened before. I wrote a lovely letter to my dear patrons, like, and they were so supportive and wonderful, and I felt very affirmed by them. So just as a disclaimer, that's also what's happening here.
Yes, and part of that also is that setting your boundary in general, also the snail mail option, you also cap. I know that.
Oh yes, there's no snail mail. I don't think there are any openings right now. Because gosh, my hand would like, because I go into like each person's Instagram profile and I like talk about what's going on. Like I want to make it a personalized thing and not just a like, hey, have a great month, which is awesome, but like I want to make it personalized to that person. So that takes time to do that, basically.
Yes, yes. And that's what I really love. Like just from what you've shared about Patreon before, is those snail mails that are just like it's just like so sweet and like I can just imagine receiving it in the mail and like what sunshine it would be. um, and then also, everything you create, you definitely have a touch of beauty to it. So like your stickers and everything that you do, they're always so beautiful.
It's fun to be able to like support other like small businesses by choosing the stickers and like getting
Mhm.
those like I mean it's wonderful for my stationery loves because I get to like buy stationery every month. I'm like, I need it and
Yeah.
it's cute. And so it's a win-win in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I love just in general that like personal touch. Just the fact that you're doing something unique in your Patreon, even if it's not everybody receiving it. Um, so I actually had started a Patreon a year and a half ago or something. But I was still like wasn't really sure what I was really passionate about or even who I was as a person. And so it was like I had like the behind the scenes and I had, different things like that I offered, but it wasn't like it was anything really special or unique. And it was something that I actually wasn't super passionate about running. So I didn't talk about it a lot and it has since dissipated, which is fine by me because it just wasn't a good fit. But now I really enjoy looking at different ways folks have set up Patreons and stuff that make it unique and very personalized to like you as the creator. And then, yeah, I just love it. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of fun. It's really feel really special that I get to put that together and people are supportive of it.
Yeah. Do you also you might have already mentioned this, but do you do journal prompts inside of the Patreon?
Um, yeah, so I used to do them every week. Right now it's around like every month is how often I'm doing them. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I'm still on your email list, but I remember getting an email about it, like at some point about your journal prompts and everything. It's like, oh, just another sweet touch. Emma touch.
Aw, thank you.
Okay, so getting back to your designs, unless there's anything else you want to share about Patreon first. Um,
Okay.
you've pretty well touched this already, but how would you describe your designs and what makes them unique or like stand out?
Hmm. Um, I would say there's a lot of like I like the idea of taking color work and making it flow in the design. And so it doesn't just, a lot of them, I do have a couple that are kind of like a band around the cuff, but it's like doing things to make it integrated with the rest of the design, whether that's like changing how the rib is, changing it into a fade, kind of doing things of that nature. Um, and I think I also really pride myself in making things that are enjoyable to knit, and like making things that people want to kind of grab and lean towards. And everyone wants to knit different things, right? And so it's not going to be what everybody wants to do. But I think that I designed definitely for somebody who has a lot going on in their life and maybe they're engaged in multiple things and they want to come home to a project that's going to be a little bit interesting, like something that's going to require some kind of concentration and stuff, and also isn't too overly challenging that it's just going to create frustration. So, yeah.
Yeah, like the word that comes to mind is like soothing. Like your knits look very soothing to work through. And you kept mentioning this earlier, but you make them beautiful. Like it's like this piece of art, but it's also like it's it's not complicated. It's not like you have to be the best knitter in the world to have something beautiful, but it's yeah. um all right. So, well, I guess we've already covered several of these other questions. But I guess let's go ahead and go into your designs. Did you bring some designs with you to share?
I did. I brought some show and tell. I brought some like working in progress things as well, like designs that I'm currently working
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
might be fun. Um, and then I don't know what like so one of the designs that kind of I guess started I don't know. I think this was like one of the designs that people saw and were really excited about. Um, and it's still one of my best-selling patterns are my Mountain Mama socks.
Yes.
And like I love how here, wait, let me do this one. I love how it is like there's the skyline and then there's the mountains and then it just flows into the green and it's not like I like the flow of it. Um,
Yes.
so and then that one kind of led into this one, which is my comfy cacti socks.
Those are so cute.
I like this idea of like kind of having a landscape. I also have one that's like waves of an ocean as well, which I really
Mhm.
enjoy. Um, oh, that's so fun. Comfy cacti was my first gifted knit and my first colored project. Oh, so exciting! Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I really like how both of those turned out. Um, and then I guess I will share my nostalgia socks because then I can also share my nostalgia sweater design that I'm working on. So
Yes.
these are my nostalgia socks, inspired by friendship bracelets, um, and like the nostalgia of summertime and like summer camp and kind of just doing those sorts of things. And so these socks did pretty well, and I also just really love how they look, and I love how they just kind of get you to keep knitting the next row and the next row. Um, and so I'm working on a sweater design with it. And I separated for the sleeves a couple of nights ago. So we are moving forwards. It's a yoke, top down yoke design, all over Colorwork. Um, kind of obsessed with it personally. um, very excited. So yeah, it's I never thought 2 years ago that I'd be designing a sweater. And here we are. So it's
Yes.
been a lot of fun.
It's so beautiful. Colleen said wow. And earlier she had said love the colors about your
Oh,
socks.
thank you, Colleen. Thank you. Um, so yeah, those are
Yeah, that's so exciting. I still actually have only finished one sweater for myself. I'm working on a cardigan, but I've made plans to design my first sweater to be
yay.
released in January of next year. So
That's exciting.
now officially on my plans, and so it will happen. It's been an idea it's been over a year. I had like sent it to a few companies and asked, if they wanted to work together, and I just never heard anything back. And turned out okay because I had lots of other stuff come up. But now yes, it's the same thing. I can't believe I'm actually going to do it, but I'm very inspired. Like that's all I'm inspired with designs right now is sweaters.
I
So
know. It's exciting. Like I think that there's just so many different things that excite us and like get us to
mhm.
knit the next thing. And like sweaters just have so much. It's such a large canvas that you can do so much more with it, which is really exciting.
Yeah, well, and for me, it's been a lot of realizing what would I actually wear a lot more often. And it's sweaters and cardigans, things that are just, I love cozy things that I can just pull on really easily that don't take a lot of work. Like on just day to day, I'm just at home pretty much 24/7. So I pretty much only wear accessories if I'm like hopping on a call or going out somewhere. And pretty much all of my designs are accessories. So
Mm-hmm.
shawls and hats and cowls and a pair of socks, some mittens. They just aren't things that I'm wearing on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's been fun. Like, one of the things that I want to do, that I want to knit for myself, I want to design a shawl because I haven't designed a shawl yet. I think that would be fun. So, but I was just doing some shawl math. I was like, how do I make this work? It's so hard. Maybe I'll ask my brother. He's an electrical engineering person, so he does math. But anyways, but I want to like knit a shawl to have at like my office at work because I starting to go back into the office. I think it's more
Mhm.
regular now. Who knows? So and the office gets very chilly. So I'll just have a shawl that like lives there that I can just like wrap myself in and I don't have to worry about like slugging it back and forth. So
Yeah,
anyways, that's a total aside.
I hope you enjoy it. I mean, I know that you can do shawls. You've done sweaters. So I've loved shawls as kind of, for me, it's been like the easy canvas. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to fit. Like, sure, you have an idea of how you want it to fit, but it doesn't have to fit with 2 inches of positive ease on somebody with this size or something.
Yeah.
Like anything like hats or cowls or hats or mittens or socks or sweaters. And and then it just like becomes this like I do the big huge shawls. Those are my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. I want something huge and cozy that's just gonna like cover my whole front side. And
Yeah.
so that it is, for me, it is like this big huge canvas that I get to play with. And basically there's not as many restraints
Yeah.
as far as different repeats and different things like that. You can play with it a lot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea for what you want the shawl to look like?
Not like totally. Um, Still trying to figure that out, basically. I have some like sketches and ideas, and like I think because I do a lot of stranded color work, um, for shawls, it's a little bit different, and so I'm like trying to figure out how that would play and like seeing what slip stitching type things I can do, and just um, I have to spend a little bit more time and swatch a little bit more in order for me to like feel confident in what I'm doing. So I'll figure it out though. I'm not.
Yeah, so I had this idea last year. Part of why I don't like it is because it's single ply, but the idea is it would be a colorwork shawl, and I decided the best way to do it. So it's a 3/4 shape. So it's like
Mhm.
3 triangles with the
Yeah.
triangle with the square cut off at the top. But then, so then it would be worked in the round and steeked.
Ooh,
I
nice.
was really excited about the idea, but more recently I'm like, maybe this would be a better idea for something like a sweater. I don't know how many people are actually going to be excited about sticking for a shawl and all these things, and you still have all of your everything
Mm-hmm.
inside. So anyway, I
Yeah.
I feel you on figuring out color work with shawls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it'll be a chance to play a little bit more with texture and like see what that's like.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot you can still do with, like stripes and things with color,
Yeah.
without doing actual color work.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any other designs with you to show, or was that everything?
Um, the other ones I brought over these socks, which are my Rumphius socks, which I really like. They're inspired by the book Miss Rumphius. And I don't know, I really enjoy all over colorwork patterns for socks. I think that they give it like a cozy feel. And also I like how memorizable this pattern is. It's one of my favorites. And then I also brought over a new design that I'm writing up the pattern for right now. It's on a block, sock blocker, fun.
Ooh.
So this is my little bunnies. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's bunnies, and there's fun ruffles, and
So cute.
I one of my patterns that I released in the fall was my barn door socks, which were little chickens, and those were really fun. And so I was like, I'm gonna make bunny socks. So I made bunny socks, and I'm thinking like maybe around the Eastery springtime it'll be a good time to release it. Is what I'm thinking as far as that goes. But now like I've made the thing, I have to do the technical part of it. I have the charts and I have everything made. I just have to like put it all together. So
Yeah, do you want to show us the toe on that? Because I saw just a peek and it looks really cute too.
so the toe is just
Yes.
the same color work. It's actually there's a little bit of this
Oh,
like
okay,
cross
yeah.
color work at the top. So it's just the same one done down there.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cute.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, okay, so real quick, since you were talking about color work, do you have any tips for knitters who are feeling intimidated by working color work, or like how to make your color work better, or anything like that that you love?
Ooh, good question. Because I know a lot of knitters are intimidated by color work.
Yeah.
And I definitely had some color work meltdowns where like I've made it too tight and then it doesn't go over my foot, which is not a fun experience by any means. I think my biggest thing is that, like, the first time you do color work, to not expect for it to work out perfectly, and like to either do color work on something where like the size and gauge doesn't super matter. Like a lot of people like color work socks, and obviously I love color socks too, but maybe doing like a color work hat first, where if it happens to be a little bit tighter than you expected, it won't be as big of a deal versus if you're knitting with a pair of socks and the cuff is too tight, you're not going to get it across the heel. So starting with like a little bit of a lower stakes project with less long floats. So basically a pattern where the colors are very close together. Like the Mountain Mama socks, I don't recommend this as a beginner color work pattern because this is like a really long float. So you have to do some catching, which is why there's a little bit of like other colors popping through there. Versus something like this, it's like every 3 rows, every 3 stitches, there's a different one. And then I like to do the, like you knit along, and then if you have to do the next color, I will like pull apart my stitches on my needle and kind of just like go like that, and then pull it over. So basically kind of like making it as though it would be stretched, and then kind of moving my float are my top tips when it comes to color work.
Yes, I love it. And I wasn't intending to promote this, but
It does look a nice beginner-friendly one.
Yeah, that's what I shared it as when I designed it, because there's only, it's like 8 rows or something that you're actually working both colors at the same time. Most of the time you're just using one color at a time, but then it's like an introduction. Mm-hmm. And it's only the longest span is 3 stitches, and I always have video tutorials and stuff like that to teach you how to catch your floats and things. Of course, you don't have to work this pattern, but this gives you an idea of, a cowl is something that doesn't have to fit perfectly, especially if you choose to knit a larger size, because it's most often if you're working color work, you're likely to go smaller rather than larger. And it's because of those floats behind your work that start pulling it together. Another recommendation I have heard, and I've never done it myself, but is to flip your work inside out. So then your floats are on the outside of your work instead of the inside. And so that just helps carry it longer.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's actually in the pattern for this one. I have like some photos of that. And so kind of doing it from the other side, and you also get to see your fun floats from the other side of things.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like blocking will help a little bit, but blocking doesn't help as much with color work as it does with things like lace, because your floats do, it does make
your floats are only so long, and I had a tester one time tell me that like they ended up cutting one of their floats and like tying like knots and felting it together, and they were like, it works, I'm happy with it. And I was like, I'm glad. That's great. That's great. I would not do that, but I'm really happy for you. So there's lots of ways knitters find solutions, but yeah. Or even like some people I know just for like this part of the sock went up a needle size.
Yes.
So like I use 2.25 millimeter needles. Maybe they go to a 2.75 just for the color portion, to kind of help loosen things up a bit.
Yes. And also, just being mindful of it helps too, like you'd mentioned, stretching the stitches out and things like that will help it as well. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so the last thing I had on here was just, I had sent you some questions beforehand, and you already talked about gymnastics being something that you love. Another thing you mentioned as, I can't remember what the question was, it might have been like a favorite hobby outside of knitting, and what you mentioned was coffee shop touring. So I wanted to share that because I loved it. It's just another one of those things that like just makes a relatable person. So I'm not a coffee person.
Okay.
A lot of days I wish I was, for the sake of energy. But if I drink coffee, it has to have enough sugar and chocolate that I don't taste the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But for the folks who do like coffee, because I feel like there are more folks who like coffee than us that don't. What's your favorite kind of coffee?
Ooh, if I'm going to like a coffee shop, I like to get like a cappuccino. If I'm going to a coffee shop, that's what I usually will end up getting. And then when I'm at home, I just like to have like drip coffee, like plain old, plain old. Um, but I like coffee shop vibes, like even more than I like the actual coffee. Like, I think that was one of the things that I missed the most during the pandemic was like not being able to go sit in a coffee shop and like do work from there. Um, so yeah, I just like coffee shop vibes. It's a nice place, nice thing to do.
Yes. So do you have like either a local place that is your favorite coffee shop, or like if you've been traveling and you have found a shop that you absolutely love?
Yeah, and when I say coffee shop touring, I just mean like coffee shop touring. Like living in DC, there's lots of coffee shops, and so
Yes.
I can kind of try out different ones. Um, Close to me, one of my favorites is this place called the Little Red Fox. Um, I also just like love their cups have like little foxes on them, like a bunch of them. It's so cute. So I love going there. They have a lot of good coffee, and then there's also a bakery really close by to me called Bread First, which I really like. Um, so those are kind of my two favorites right now. But I've been venturing out a little bit more here and there. But yeah.
Yeah. So fun. So are you like do you have coffee every day at home or yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like this is my cup from this morning.
Oh, it's so cute.
I know it's so cute. My partner got it for me. I'm a big fan of it. But yeah, coffee every morning. If I don't have coffee, I get a caffeine withdrawal headache. Like I've just accepted it at this point in my life. So yeah.
Yes. Well, so much fun. Thank you, Emma, for joining us, for talking all things knitting and designing and just your personal life. Is there anything else you would like to share about your designs or any advice you have for anybody wanting to try designing?
Mm. Well, one, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed chatting. I enjoy talking about knitting. We could talk about knitting and things like that for like forever. So that's always
Yes.
a fun thing. And as far as like people who want to get into designing, I think to just go for it, and to like recognize that like it isn't always personal how people respond to your designs. It isn't personal. It's like there's just different people have different preferences, and there's so many things that go into why someone will want to buy something and why they won't want to buy something. Um, so, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like have fun with it, but like um, if knitting is something that you really enjoy doing, um, remembering that part of it, even when you're trying to like design and things like that, like remembering what parts of it you have enjoyed and how can you incorporate that more as you design and continue to do that part of things.
Yeah, I love that. And I will also add, I've heard a lot of people who are knitters, they're like, oh, I've been knitting for several years. I feel like I should start designing. Um, I do want to give you permission. You don't have to be a designer.
No,
Um,
you
like,
don't.
I kind of, it makes me feel maybe a little bit sad when I hear that because it's just like, you feel like I hate shoulds and have tos and things like that. Like it's 100% a-okay and amazing to just enjoy your knitting for the sake of knitting. Designing is, yeah, you knit while you design, but it's also a completely different thing. So
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
like I really love knitting other people's designs and like knitting other people's stuff. And because I have all these designs that I want to knit, like I don't get to knit as much as other people's. And like I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like it's
Yes.
fun to knit other people's designs. It's fun to kind of be on autopilot and learn from somebody else. And knitting doesn't have to be like your entire personality. Like there's lots of parts to us. So yeah.
Yes, I have no idea how many times I start looking for patterns and I'm like, I just need to stop designing so I can knit all of the things I want to knit. Obviously, I love designing, but yes,
There's
yes.
lots and lots of projects out there. So many patterns. Mhm.
Oh, and the other thing I had in mind when you mentioned, like there's a lot of reasons people might say different things about your design or your pattern or interpret it in different ways. Also, like if you're going into designing, remember that when you go into testing in particular, because sometimes you can get some very different perspectives on how a pattern should be written. And it's not that any of them is right or wrong. It's completely personal opinion of how people like to read their patterns. So,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You're never gonna like design the perfect pattern for everybody because
yeah.
what's perfect for me is gonna be perfect for different people. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also the beautiful thing about um, humanity in general, but also the diversity of the knitting community is there are so many different ways to approach different things and different personalities and everybody is different. So if somebody doesn't work for you, that's okay. There's lots more out there.
Ravelry has lots of patterns to choose from. There's many.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, if folks want to find you online, where's the best place to find you?
I would say starting with Instagram. So bloom at bloom.create is my Instagram. And then my website is bloomcreatedesigns.com, and that has links as well to, Patreon, Ravelry, all those things. But the link in my bio it's to the website. It's just a link in bio page on the website. So that's kind of where I would start.
Yes. And of course, when they visit your Instagram page, I'm sure they will start scrolling because you have such a full feed. So don't forget to give Emma a follow as
Thank
well.
you. And if any of my followers are kind of watching here, Jessica does a lot of really cool and innovative work about supporting designers and seeing each other and like meeting designers' needs and supporting one another. So go check out Jessica's page if you're interested.
Thank you. Yeah, I realized last year that more than helping, and I don't know how to say this in a way that sounds right, but more than helping knitters, I really love helping designers and connecting with designers and giving them what they need. But so I actually recently started a new Instagram account.
Oh, cool.
If for folks who are designers looking for just designing and business and marketing tips and encouragement and things like that. So that's Pattern Design Circle is the name of that.
Okay.
And in the replay, I'll have all of the links to everything we chat about and everything like that.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
but thank you again so much for joining me, and I hope thanks everybody for joining live, first of all. But I hope everybody has a beautiful rest of their day.
Yes, definitely. Take care. Thanks
All
so much,
right.
Jessica.
Yes, I'll talk to you later.
Mm-hmm.